just last night I was going over doing the logos, like looking at different samples for logos for this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at what is deemed the best. What we would be interested in. I see a lot of people interested in doing podcasts, and that's great. Sometimes I get the feeling that some people think all it is just get a camera and a microphone and
Well, it could be his
Right.
level of production.
Right.
That you're looking to get put out.
And unless it is an incredibly funny comedian, like say Joey Diaz or even Joe Rogan, or let's say Dave Chappelle were to just do a podcast. All those guys really need is their cell phone and Facebook Live.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at Joe Rogan's podcast, for example, and even Joey Diaz, I see also production value. Their sets and everything. They're really nice. They're really nice to look at as well.
Well, I mean, but those guys improved over time. Joe
Yes,
Rogan doing it, 7 years or something.
You're
So.
quite right. And this is the thing. I'll be honest. I come from the world of filmmaking, and not even short films. As you know, we make feature films.
Yeah.
You act, I direct. So I really come from that purely visual world.
Right.
And this medium is talking stories, talking the stories as opposed to showing them on a screen. And the transition is interesting. Sometimes it's a little off-putting because, well, I would like to think that I work very hard to be interesting on the screen. And not I mean film me, but I'm talking about the actors who I cast or the scenery, whatever the backdrop is, whatever, to make that look interesting. Because, again, it's from the visual. But when it comes to podcasting, it's really, you really have to be articulate.
You have to be interesting.
Yeah, you have to be interesting, and sometimes I think I haven't lived enough years and gotten enough experience to be able to tell stories and so on. But then I think I didn't even start out in film. I started out in the world of architecture, where I studied architecture. Was one of the most, I would put it, interesting places in the world, which is Cuba, and which that was an experience by itself,
Well, to me, the thing is, with when it comes to podcasting, and on the point of being interesting, podcasting being the medium that is so anti, the typical talk show, the anti-establishment type of way of communicating with a mass audience. What I've realized from the podcast that I've listened to, you're most interesting when you're just being free around the people that you're free around.
And that's what I love about podcasts as well, because I love listening to podcasts. I love watching the video aspect of the podcast shows. It's just something very inviting about that type of medium that I think, which is what sort of influenced us to get the nerve and the chutzpah, as they say, to even do one. And right away, I would say that it can be very intimidating, but if you really love doing this kind of thing, and I would also urge, do as much homework on it, do as much research and planning and so on, as if you really want to have some pride in the work that you do.
But some people don't.
Well, some people don't, but that's okay. Not everyone can do this sort of thing. I mean, we're going to find out if we're good at this, Kearn. We're going to find out, I really hope that I can use this podcast to share experiences in filmmaking. And we also talk about, pop culture stuff. We have a bunch of things coming up in the next segments. And that at the end of the day, anyone who's interested in creating and being creative, and interested in sharing an experience through this medium, I will always say go for it. Unless you're ISIS having a podcast talking about how you want to destroy the West. I'm going to say no, don't do that.
Well, I mean...
or maybe do it and learn their tactics.
Yeah, only because it'll be, unintelligent for them to put it out there.
And you know what? For all we know, with the way how marketing is being done around the world, maybe ISIS does have a podcast. Can you imagine the logo for that shit?
Boom.
Whoa, dude, you're giving them ideas, man. You're giving them ideas. Kaboom.
I mean, the amount of film that is put out, the beheading films. Their production level is going to be surpassed Joe Rogan and
dude, I don't know about you, but I have purposely refused to look at those videos.
Yeah, I don't look at them either.
And imagine,
interest me.
But imagine we make genre films, action films, science fiction, all that. And I'm saying that I have no problem if the scene calls for someone's head to be lopped off, like if it's a horror film, like, Friday the 13th kind of film.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference in doing that versus seeing something that has happened in real life, which is why it should only exist in the realm of make-believe, mm-hmm. Which is film, which is holding up a light through a lens, through our psyche, and learning from that. I really am excited about this podcast show. We look forward to interviewing and meeting and having discussions with other creatives within the film industry, not only within the film industry but in music and TV. And I'm really excited to interview artists, people who paint, do sculptures, all that sort of stuff. Anything within the realm of art and creativity, this podcast will be for them.
That brings me to an interesting point when it comes to podcasting.
Yeah.
The limiting of self, which I don't agree with at all.
Yeah.
But you tend to be more careful than I would.
Yeah, well, you see, careful it's... I would like to think it's in terms of focus. There's so many other podcasts that talk about, things like politics and current events and so on, which we will tap into. But I just want this to be a discussion on the things that we love: film, music, entertainment stuff, games, all of that. From time to time, we will put in our 2 cents on current events and so on. So yeah, I guess that's it for now. But we will talk about that MMA thing in the next...
Definitely.
Yeah, in the next segment. Hey guys, thanks for watching. And if you like this video and you want to see more, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and SoundCloud. And check out my film series, available on Vimeo On Demand. Links are in the description. Thanks for stopping by.